the informed investor. Thanks to Century 21 agents, defying mediocrity and delivering extraordinary experiences.
Yes, very important part of the Monday night version of the Steve Price Show. John Stanley in the chair, but Charles Tarbey joins Steve each Monday, chair of Century 21 Australasia, to discuss the property market, how to make the most from your investment, and I guess people at the moment trying to track where the market is going. Good evening to you, Charles.
Good evening, John. Yes, we're even the real estate agents are trying to track where the market's going.
I know. Now we've had this Easter break and the slowdown, and then we had the Anzac Day kind of long break, and we had school holidays in different parts of Australia. So things now would I assume start to pick up again? Are we seeing that?
Yeah, we are actually. It's been a very nice balancing act. There have been price reductions across the country. There's one or two capital cities that are placing pretty well, whether it's Adelaide or Brisbane. The Melbourne and Sydney markets, of course, have had their correction. And I think that correction, a lot of people still think there's a bit more to come. I think there's probably a little less more to come than people are thinking. One of the reasons I feel that very strongly, apart from the clearance rates climbing and the attendance at open homes climbing, the level of stock is dropping, and that's a big one. When the level of stock drops, we start to see a change. All of a sudden, there are more people out looking than there is property for sale. And we've got 2.59% more stock at the moment than this time last year. But if I go back 3 weeks ago, we had 9.26% more stock than this time last year. So that stock level is dropping, and again, buyer inquiry is increasing. So I think we'll see a subtle change in the market. You may even get an interest rate reduction, which could balance it out even more.
Of course. I mean, people talk about buying a home and how much equity you've got, and that becomes an issue, potential negative equity. When's the right time? And for people buying, I mean, should you have a 20% deposit? Is that still the benchmark we're talking about?
Look, that is some banks. There are certain suburbs across the country, in certain capital cities, where the banks are requesting a bigger deposit because they've been concerned about the values in those areas. So it does change literally from suburb to suburb. Going back when I bought property, you could almost buy a property with 5% deposit, and it might have been a bit strange in those days to do that. I certainly wouldn't recommend it today, but I think a good deposit of 15-20% today in today's market is very, very safe.
Yeah. Now, demand's increasing property in the national capital of Canberra. What are the most popular suburbs there? What's the story there?
Look, the interesting part about Canberra, and Steve and I have been speaking about this for almost a year, it's one of the areas, Canberra, Adelaide, that we pick as strong and growth areas. Look, it's secure. Your jobs are secure. Most of the suburbs are planned and structured. The release of property is planned and structured. And so you'll find that they'll open up these suburbs and they'll release the land in a steady manner. And so there's growth right across Canberra, not just any particular area. And it's because generally to do with the way they've planned the entire approach to it.
I mean, can you be as mercenary as deciding, okay, if Bill Shorten's going to win the election, they are talking about lifting the cap on public service numbers, and Canberra generally, the public service grows, and it's a big public service town. Do you factor that kind of thing in?
You do. I hate to say it, but it's happened every time in the history of our stats that if Labor gets in, there's a significant increase in public service jobs in Canberra, which strengthens the Canberra market. May not necessarily strengthen other markets, but Canberra is a place to invest in. I think either way, Canberra is strong because it's got that continued growth to it. It's come of age. There's some wonderful areas in Canberra, wonderful restaurants, wonderful living precincts that we didn't have in Canberra years ago.
That's right. I lived there for a while, and I go back now.
Yeah,
where was all this?
Well, I'm from Goulburn and Crookwell.
Oh, you're the same.
So I know that area pretty well.
Now, Sydney Council, just quickly on this one, being complaints about illegal and overcrowded housing.
Look, this has it's come to light now, but I can tell you many, many years ago in certain ethnic areas of Sydney, and I have an ethnic background, there'd be the 3-bedroom plus that extra room at the back that was always built without council approval. And it created a severe problem over the years where when people were trying to get loans and they were trying to get the council approval for what was constructed on the property, there was always a significant extra room that wasn't on the original plans. And some of the councils, particularly in the southwest of Sydney and inner west of Sydney, decided, OK, enough's enough. We'll draw a line in the sand. We'll approve all of those now, but from here on in, you've got to put your plans in. And it's one of those things that you see certainly in areas where there's an overcrowding of population, lots of migrants moving in. They'll build these areas, and to them, it's nothing illegal. To them, it's putting on an extra little room on the back of their home. So there is a lot of that going on. The granny flat issue has been a big issue because you had to put a plan in to get granny flats. There had to be a significant reason.
So the answer is do your homework and make sure if you're buying or renting, whatever you do, make sure it's all right. Look, we're out of time. It's always interesting hearing you, and tonight I've been talking to you. You'll be back next week with Steve.
Thank you very much, John.
Charles Tarbey, their chair of Century 21 Australasia. News comes up next here on The Steve Price Show.